So if you're following along with the slides, image number 4 has all of the mainstream media propaganda companies listed on it. And essentially, we looked at in the um, control over mass media section many weeks ago, months back even, we saw that these media corporations have basically been completely owned by only a handful of companies for the past 50 or more years. And I think the number was about 6 companies. We looked into who those owners were. There's even a document on the website in that section previously when we looked at mass media, mainstream media, that shows you who these owner conglomerate corporations are. And I'm not even sure if it's even that high now. It might be 5 companies own it all. But it's an ever decreasing number of companies that get to decide what the vast majority of people see and hear on a daily basis, and they're ever centralizing their control over the information. So if you're getting your information from many of these mainstream corporate-owned sources, you can bet it is completely biased. It says nothing negative about the people who own and control them from a financial and monetary perspective, okay? So you're not going to hear anything bad about the government, the military, the pharmaceutical companies, the oil industries. These are the people who actually own mainstream media. So they're not going to allow on their networks and in their papers any negative information about that. Therefore, you're getting a skewed perspective. You're not getting all of the data that is required to make informed, thoughtful decisions that is based on a total picture. You're only going to get parts and pieces of the picture, and even those will be slanted and spun in the ways that the financiers of these media corporations want you to think about it, and the way that they want you to perceive it. So when we look into mainstream media, we see that not only are they steering perception, is it pure perception management, but it is also directly related to worldview poisoning. Okay, we just came off a 3-week look into how to heal a damaged or poisoned worldview in the worldview healing section of the solutions of the way out. Okay, but if you're looking at slide number 5 now, mainstream media always attempts in acting as the gatekeepers for the true wider perspective that we could gain if we go outside of them, okay? They're always trying to keep us in the box thinking. They want us to think of the world as perpetually dangerous. Stories about death, the whole idea of if it bleeds, it leads, are going to be highlighted. Anything that promotes human nature in a negative way, because they are trying to control your worldview. They're trying to get you to think negatively, and most of all, to think fearfully, to keep you in a vibratory state of consciousness governed by fear, which is the dark force, the dark polarity that leads to wanting to control and then ultimately leads to the extermination of freedom and chaos in society, which is where we're rapidly headed if we don't change that worldview by getting off of this poison. Okay? They'll always highlight anything that emphasizes how much they say you need the state. Okay? Anything that, if people are in some sort of chaotic or disorderly form at any given time, okay, they'll always talk about the role that authority needs to play to make that right. They're always teaching poisoned worldview, the worship of authority, that control is good and necessary, okay? And this is all ultimately about one overarching way of seeing the world, and that is in a state of separation. That's the main thing to keep in mind when it comes to the mainstream media. They are trying to focus on keeping your worldview in a state of poisoned poisoned aspects of looking at ourselves and others. But most of all, they're trying to keep people in a state of separation, constantly battling against each other, because in that way they act as a sort of a steering committee. They act as sort of um, uh, a sheepdog for the globalist controllers.